Bryan Johnson. You may not know his name, but I'm sure you've probably seen his face. He may look genetically modified, like he was built in a lab, and honestly, that's probably the best representation. He spends nearly $2 million a year optimizing every little facet of his life with his own research lab in his house. His mission's simple: don't die. That's literally what he calls it and what he's trying to accomplish. Some of it's genuinely fascinating, some of it pushes the limits of what really needs to be done in order to live a healthier, more full life. So let's talk about that today. I spent 10 years working with real life people, trying to help them build muscle, lose weight, and live a more resilient life through injuries, regardless of whether they felt like that was a natural decline that they just had to live with from now on. I'm not looking at this through the lens of a lab, which I can't refute. He has his own researchers, but I can look at it through the lens of real life and what's actually applicable and usable for people just like you. And my take on his protocol, it's not the answer to living forever and living a better life. I think there are a lot of shortcomings in his protocol that we're gonna get into today. Let's talk about Bryan Johnson real quick. He started this project back in 2020, trying to live longer and understand his own health. He started off as a businessman and made a bunch of money, and then he sold those businesses off and he didn't really like where his health had been. That's a lot of the people that I've personally worked with. Ultimately, they're trying to buy back their health, which really doesn't work. At the age of 42, he was overweight, he was overstressed and overworked, and he's trying to fight back from that state. He says he was a broken down version of himself, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. After his protocol, the results on paper is actually pretty remarkable. His cardiovascular fitness is elite for men half his age, his inflammation markers are near zero, and multiple biological age testers show that he is younger than he should be. It sounds amazing, right? Although he is spending nearly $2 million a year and his entire life is regimented to a specific prescription each and every day. Now, I respect his willingness to test and use things that aren't necessarily approved or encouraged at this point in the medical community, but he is just treating himself as a guinea pig. And that's not how I work with my clients. That's not how I work with myself. I respect it, but I don't recommend it. So let's talk about the actual blueprint. Sleep is the number one, and it's the foundation of his entire blueprint. This one I can't not get behind because it's one of my biggest talking points when working with clients to get them healthier and fit. Bryan's in bed at 8:30 p.m. every single night, which honestly is just not realistic for most people. His room's gonna be completely dark. He stops eating around 11 a.m. so he's fully digested all of his food. There's no screens before bedtime, blue light blocking glasses, and a temperature controlled mattress. He's achieved nearly 8 months of consecutive 100 scores on his Whoop wristband, which is impressive, and I couldn't tell you the last time I achieved 100. But is 8:30 p.m. a realistic bedtime for most people? Honestly, not really. But the principles underneath it are completely true. Darkness, sleep schedule, no screen time, and cool temperature. Those are things that actually work and don't really cost you any money. Diet is something that I kind of disagree a little bit with Bryan Johnson. Well, I do appreciate the time restricted eating and I do appreciate moderating your calories. I think he goes a little bit too far. Here's what the protocol looks like for him. He eats about 19 to 2,250 calories each and every day, consuming predominantly whole plant foods. His last meal, as I mentioned in the last one, is 11 a.m., so he's fasting for nearly 17 hours a day. There's no alcohol ever, and he eats exactly the same foods each and every day, which honestly, I couldn't get behind personally, so I wouldn't recommend it to clients and people I work with. He himself has admitted that he's handed his life and his health over to an algorithm, and that's where he gets his diet. The algorithm decides what he eats 100% of the time, not mood, not appetite, and definitely not social interaction. I have to give him tremendous credit for the discipline and the commitment to following along with such a rigid, strict diet plan. To me, eating is one of the most fundamental human experiences there are. It's the way that we connect with other people emotionally and socially. Food is tied to culture, connection, and enjoyment. When you strip all that away to give it to an algorithm, you're losing a big part of what it is to be a human, and I think you're solving one problem and creating another one. and to exercise. This is honestly probably the most grounded protocol of them all. It's very simple in how he executes it, and it's very simple in terms of the exercises that he's doing. He spends about an hour a day either strength training, cardiovascular training, or doing mobility and stability exercises, including short walks after meals to help with blood sugar. He trains in the morning, values consistency over intensity, specifically emphasizing not getting injured. The last point is what I preach constantly to members and to clients here at Peak City Gym. Staying healthy is the most important thing when training in the gym. Injuries set back your health are going to make it more challenging to maintain strength and consistency and mobility, and it's going to ruin your confidence. So we need to stay healthy as much as possible when training, and his results are really hard to argue with. His VO2 max is 58.7. That's top tier for men half his age. He can bench 240 pounds, and all of those numbers are seriously good and would put most people to shame. Now let's talk about his supplements. This is where it gets really extreme and definitely not something that you should follow based off of a YouTube video. He has constant medical feedback from professionals and is getting tested on a regular basis. Bryan takes over 100 supplements each and every day on top of prescription medications, including metformin, which is a diabetes drug that has been researched for longevity, rapamycin, an immunosuppressant that is studied for anti-aging, and a range of peptides and other compounds that are even more challenging to acquire. Some of this has real research behind it, but a lot of it is him treating himself like a guinea pig, which under the supervision of medical professionals, but most people are not going to have the resources or the funding or the time to be able to go through that and do it appropriately. Okay, so here's where I have to be blunt. This is a great protocol for Bryan, because he has the resources, the time, and everything that goes with it to be able to do it to the best of his ability. But I do think it has some shortcomings. One of my biggest gripes with the Blueprint protocol is not that it's not based in science and based in reality, because he is doing this research on himself real time. And I appreciate and respect him putting this all out for the internet to consume and to talk about. But I think it's missing a really crucial part of what overall health and longevity is. And that is the social connections that come with being around people that are like-minded and being around people that you are connecting on more than just a professional business basis. Well, I do think he's in a unique position to be able to surround himself by medical professionals that he enjoys and he respects and he is developing some social connection with. I don't think a lot of us, including myself and the people that I work with, have those same resources. So I do think he is lacking in one of the crucial ways of what longevity and health is. All of this is a sample size of one. So what works for him is not necessarily going to be what works for you. The principles are definitely valid, and there's a lot to be garnered from the things that he talks about and the things that he learns in his own research. But I do want to reiterate, he is a one of one. Everything that he does is perfectly tailored just for him, and you're not going to be able to have that same tailored, specific, algorithmic programming that he does. Something that I don't think he talks about, and maybe he is accustomed to and is able to move beyond, but the psychological cost of perfection. Giving your entire life over to an algorithm means that you're no longer able to have autonomy or decision making. And while that can be easy for short term, I do think humans need some form of autonomy and some ability to make decisions for themselves on the fly. There is just a mental fatigue that comes from putting everything that you have into this algorithm and constantly trying to analyze and create a perfect program for yourself. And I've reiterated this so many times in this video, but one of the biggest problems that I see with Bryan Johnson's protocol is just how repeatable it is. He has millions of dollars and spends nearly $2 million every single year to make adjustments, to run tests, to get these supplements and these foods and all of these different protocols. I don't know about you, but I don't have $2 million a year to spend on my health and wellness. Well, I would love to, it's just not the reality for most people out there. Enough of the criticism of Bryan Johnson. I want you to actually take something away from this video, so here are 4 things you should steal from the Blueprint protocol. Make sleep your #1 priority. Sleep is the #1 recovery metric and the best way that you can just kind of flush out, reset every single day. So don't neglect your sleep. Number 2 is to track something. Find something that you want to get better at and track it. While you track it, it means it's probably going to get better because you'll see what you do and compare and contrast with the progress. If you don't track it, it's not going to get better. Number three, and this is something I've changed my mind on pretty recently, and that is time restricted eating. On one hand, the main value for it is it limits your ability to overconsume calories. But on the other hand, there is a lot of research that has been supported within the last 12 months that says you actually get more cellular turnover, so the bad cells tend to die away and get flushed out while more good cells are injected into your body. Number four, the one I've made my entire career off of, is make exercise a non-negotiable. There is no option but to exercise or do something for your health each and every day, whether that be walking, strength training, cardiovascular training. Any one of those activities needs to be done each and every day for you to live a consistent, healthy, fit life. To finish off, thanks for tuning in to the Longevity Lab here at Peak City Gym. We really appreciate your time, and if there's any video ideas that you have, make sure you comment them down below. We'll see you guys in the next video.